The return of former President Zelaya to Honduras has provoked disorder and fear among the people. His followers loot houses and businesses and destroy the property of citizens. In response, the government has taken all necessary measures to avoid a descent into anarchy. The government of President Micheletti has provided security. Today, the public can be safe and calm. The National Police and the Army are here to protect us.
This is propaganda, Honduras style, running day and night on state television since President Manuel Zelaya was deposed on June 28, 2009. Zelaya was a cattle rancher, born into wealth and power. But during his term as president, he took a left turn, raising the minimum wage and embracing other left-leaning governments in Latin America. He was on a collision course with the powerful in his own country. And when he called for a vote on rewriting the Constitution, the military put him on a plane and flew him out of the country. Only the second military coup in the region since the end of the Cold War. Almost 3 months later, he reappeared in Honduras, taking refuge in the Brazilian embassy while publicly challenging the de facto government of Roberto Micheletti. 1 week after Zelaya's return, fault lines touched down in Tegucigalpa, hoping to go beyond the headlines and get a picture of the crisis where it's lived, in the streets. Every morning since the coup more than 3 months ago, people gather in the streets to protest. Sometimes it's tens of thousands, sometimes just a few dozen. But this movement, which calls itself simply the Resistance, absolutely never misses a day.
Buenos días. Hola. Buenos días. Avi, Jazeera. Aquí estamos, pues, como siempre, a los 95 días, pues, en las calles, diciéndole al gobierno golpista que no tenemos miedo.
In the international media, the crisis here has been portrayed as a showdown between Zelaya and Micheletti, a dramatic chess game between political rivals. Spending time with the people in the streets, it becomes clear that much more is at stake for them. Of course, the protesters want Zelaya back in power, but they also want to return to the project that the coup interrupted, the Constituyente, an assembly to write a new constitution for Honduras. We meet a young woman named Daisy. From beneath her witch's hat, she gives us her version of why a proposal to change a dusty document sparked a coup, a crisis, and a social movement.
So our constitution is something that is made, it's a decree made from all the oligarchies in this country. So it's made after a coup, actually in 1982, and it's made to embrace the power of the ones that have the companies. So that's what is so important, and that's why everybody is so willing to fight for a constituyente, because with that assembly that implies the participation of all sectors in this country, so we have the hope.
Y el pueblo unido!
Hope is what brought Edwin Espinal home to Honduras. After 9 years of working construction jobs in the U.S., he came back to be part of the Zelaya era. He and his wife Wendy are famous in the protest movement, known for showing up at every march on their green motorcycle. The day that Zelaya returned to Honduras is a day Edwin will never forget. He took us to the Brazilian embassy where Zelaya sought refuge and told us his story.
When he got here, the whole country, wanted to celebrate that. This area was crowded, chanting, dancing, singing. Around 4:30 a.m., police and the army, they came from everywhere. I saw a huge cloud of smoke around us. We can't see where to go, you know. And Wendy Elizabeth, she can't breathe. She got, you know, I had to get her out of here as soon as I could. Her respiratory system gave up, just, you know, collapsed. And she didn't make it.
Wendy Elizabeth Avila was buried at the age of 24. She suffered from asthma. The hospital told Edwin that she died of swine flu, and no autopsy was performed. While the cause of her death is disputed, Edwin has no doubt about who was to blame.
This guy here behind me, they killed him. They killed her. And she was always, you know, trying to cheer the rest of the people, you know, with her smile. Come on, we gotta keep going. Let's go, you know. And everybody missed her. Everybody missed her. Nobody can't just, you know, can't believe it, what happened to her, including me, you know.
COFADE, the Committee of Families of the Detained and Disappeared in Honduras, is one of the country's foremost human rights groups.
La hemos catalogado como emergencia nacional en materia de derechos humanos. Que hay una guerra de uniformados armados contra civiles que han decidido denunciar, demandar y exigir sin violencia el retorno del orden constitucional y el retorno del presidente Manuel Zelaya.
Since the coup, COFADE has documented thousands of alleged human rights violations, from beatings and arbitrary detentions to kidnappings and torture.
Luego me tiraron al suelo, pusieron un pie sobre mi cabeza, prendieron un cigarro y comenzaron a quemarme la cara, los brazos y el pecho. ¿Esto de qué?
Delmer Membreño is one of those cases. He's a young photographer with El Libertador, a monthly newspaper fiercely critical of the coup. He says he was kidnapped by masked men in a pickup truck with no license plates, that they took him to a field outside of town and forced him to kneel in the dirt.
Uno de ellos dijo, bájalo, y quitarle el pasamontañas que quiero ver cuando mate a este ñángara. Entonces luego él puso la pistola en mi frente y uno de ellos dijo, no lo mates, mejor que lleve el mensaje a Johnny Lagos, al director del periódico, que él le acontecerá algo peor de lo que le vamos a hacer a este.
So how do you respond to the fact that Amnesty International has said just in the past few days that Honduras risks spiraling into a state of lawlessness where police and military act with no regard for human rights or the rule of law?
Nosotros no escondemos nada al mundo. Lo que pasa es que hay personas que dan información desde un punto de vista, pero también yo creo que la moneda tiene dos caras, ¿verdad? Y hay que ver siempre las dos caras de la moneda. En las Fuerzas Armadas hay unas reglas de empeñamiento que le damos a los soldados. Ellos caminan en su bolsillo esas reglas de empeñamiento, además de portar una cartilla que son las reglas para proteger los derechos humanos de las personas.
Exactly 3 months after the coup, de facto President Roberto Micheletti changed the rules of engagement, declaring a state of siege. The decree suspended freedom of speech and movement. Public meetings were banned. Police were given the power to arrest anyone without charge. And it became illegal for any media outlet to offend public dignity or government functionaries. The main television station critical of the regime was yanked off the air in the middle of the night. Radio Globo, the primary source of information for the daily protests, was also shut down. Though it managed to start up again online, its role in mobilizing opposition was ended. What happened here today?
Well, the Radio Globo, you know. They took away Radio Globo.
They took away Radio Globo. Why is that so emotional?
Because it's the only voice we have here in Honduras.
In defiance of the decrees, people once again take to the streets. Police and soldiers arrive in huge numbers. A hasty negotiation buys the demonstrators a few more minutes, but that's all.
Well, it's clear they're determined to disperse the crowd now.
This has become a daily ritual in Tegucigalpa. Using their emergency powers, police disperse protesters with overwhelming displays of raw power.
El pueblo unido! We're right in between the cops now in the protest. People have been fleeing for many blocks, but we've already seen tear gas fired repeatedly.
The de facto regime in Honduras is trying to convince the world that it is the guardian of democracy, and Manuel Zelaya and his supporters are the threat. In these streets, it's not convincing anyone.